Welcome to Extraordinary Ability with your host, Candice Ackermann. Every episode celebrates foreign nationals with extraordinary abilities who qualify for O1, EB1, and IW visas. Learn how you may qualify, especially if you have been denied other U.S. visas. You can find this show on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on www.visalawpros.com. Now here's the host of Extraordinary Ability, Candice Ackermann.
Hello, everyone. We're back again. I'm Candice Ackermann, founder and managing attorney of visalawpros.com. And I'm super pumped to have on the show today a really fun, awesome guest. And I'm going to let him introduce himself and say where he is from and what is his area of extraordinary ability.
Hi, Candice. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure is mine. So great to see you. And please introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Gary Durrant, and I'm a sports agent. I work with players, both NBA and overseas.
Amazing. And where do you hail from, Gary?
Well, I was born in Jamaica, raised in Canada. I've played ball all over the world, and currently live in Canada, but frequently in the U.S.
Amazing. And so you just brought up a point that we've discussed on this show before, which is that USCIS distinguishes, in the case of athletes, if you're coming to the U.S. to work in your extraordinary ability as a coach or an agent in your case, or as a player. So we, in handling your O1, focused on your extraordinary ability as an agent rather than as a player. Although do you want to just share with the audience, because it's cool, briefly, some of the places and teams that you played for in your professional career?
Yes, I'll start with high school. I went to high school or prep school in Connecticut, Milford Academy, then went to Florida Atlantic University, who was recently in the Final Four, went to Houston to catch them. That's one of the things my visa made easy. And after that, played in the NBA Summer League, then played overseas, Italy, Greece, and England. So,
Amazing. And what was that like, being a professional athlete? Was that a dream that you had? And explain to us what it felt like to be living your dream, basically, for that time.
Yeah, it was a blessing. To be totally honest, most kids in North America grow up dreaming of playing in the NBA. Not necessarily playing overseas, but once I got there, I realized how truly blessed I was. It was beautiful. I speak Italian, which, to learn another language, to embrace by a country and the way I was, and just really nice people, and to be treated like one of their own, and to be treated as a champion. I think that's what every athlete wants, is to be appreciated for what they do. There are a lot of sacrifices to being an athlete, a lot of discipline. So to be celebrated for that and to have an opportunity to wake up and do your hobby for a living is a blessing.
That's so nice to hear. And what made you segue into working more on the agent management side versus the playing side?
Quite simple. I really just playing is not forever, right? Whether it's injuries or age or whatever, Father Time is going to catch up to you, and you have the rest of your life. So some people are done at 25, some are done at 35 or 40 if you're lucky, if you're LeBron. But at the end of the day, there's life after basketball. And for me, really, when I was looking for something that I wanted to do, I'd been a teacher for a while at first. And then after that, I really just wanted to get back into basketball, and I thought of ways that I could add value to young players' lives. And one of them was I helped start a league here in Canada called the NBL, a professional league, and I think that also helped in our visa when you helped me put it together and apply for this. And then the other part was how can I be the agent I always wanted? How can I really help players maximize their potential? And tap into, being compensated properly for their work. So that's really where that came from. That's how the transition occurred.
So yeah, you alluded briefly to some of the categories that we used to qualify you. One was that there was already published material about you. And a practice pointer there is immigration is quite sticklerish, if that's an adjective, about the word about the article. You need to be the subject of the article. You can't just have a photograph or a quote that, where you're quoted in the piece. They really want you to include only information where you're the subject of the piece. So there was a few articles that chronicled your career. Can you explain for the viewers or share with the viewers, other than starting your lead, which of course is noteworthy and impressive, who are, what kinds of teams or players, if you're able, whatever you're able to share that isn't confidential, that you were working with, that created a name for yourself in the industry prior to you coming to work with me on your visa case?
Yeah, look, as a player, I didn't make it to the NBA, didn't play a full season in the NBA, but had a very good college career at FAU, won the NCAA slam dunk competition, probably most known for jumping over loved commentator Dickie V, who was the face of college basketball. As an agent, I've represented over 20 players that have played on NBA teams. You name the team, I've had a player on there at this point. So I think that made it, that helped to qualify me as for an extraordinary visa. Really, though, we had tried with several others and we had applied for different categories and it just didn't work. So meeting you
Not with me though, right?
Right,
Not
exactly. Meeting my friend that introduced us was a blessing, and the fact that you immediately recognized that would be the best category, and was persistent and diligent in making sure we get that was phenomenal, because that was the right category.
Yeah, there were some little nuances that we came across in filing your case. I'll touch on one or two briefly that allude to another practice pointer, which is that you cannot self-sponsor. So you had an agency or an incorporated entity already established in Canada. And I remember that at that time, not sure if it's still the case, but at that time you had a partner, which is very important because for an O1 case, you're not allowed to sponsor yourself. In other words, you can't incorporate an entity in the US where you're the 100% owner and then that entity is sponsoring your visa case. That would constitute self-sponsorship, which you cannot do for an O1 non-immigrant visa. So you either need to have, less than a majority of ownership and or somebody who you can argue is supervising your work such that you're not self-sponsoring. Separately, I remember that USCIS was inquiring as to the relationship between a corporate entity that was incorporated in the US and your Canadian entity. And what we learned and refined through filing your case was that you can have an incorporated entity in the US that functions, it does need to be operational with a US address, tax ID, but you can have an entity that functions purely for purposes of agency.
Right.
To house the visa case. And as long as it's operational, or you can argue that it's operational, there doesn't necessarily need to be a direct relationship between the Canadian entity and the US entity for purposes of an O1. So that's just a practice pointer for the viewers. And that'll segue into my next question for you, which I do like to ask the clients is, can you share with everyone just briefly what it was your experience in working with me and my firm? What were some highlights of that experience? Did you shop around, find others, or just you go on the referral of your good friend? And just share with us the highlights of what your experience was like personally working with my office.
Yeah, to get straight to the point, it was wonderful and it was refreshing. I had worked with two lawyers prior. One messed up some details that got me sent back ferociously at the border, almost accusatory. And the other one just didn't do their full due diligence, if I may put it that way. So so number one, we got the desired result, but working with you, the process was very simple. You told us exactly what you needed. You saw the vision from the beginning. You told us what you thought, what you needed, and I got it and sent it to you. And you were very responsive, which is important because it was urgent for us at that point. Was having trouble crossing to see my clients, and travel obviously is the most important thing for me in my business. I need to be able to see our clients. So
I remember that being important, that you sharing with me. And I don't think it's just part of your personality, warm personality and Canadian nationality that there. Can you describe for us, just because it's an interesting part of the work that you do, why are relationships, and specifically in-person relationships with your client in the age of Zoom, so important? What is it about your need to be physically present in the US that could make or break, whether one of your contracts transacts or one of your deals gets done?
the NBA is 75 years old. Only 5,000 people to date have ever put on a uniform, and that includes people for 10 days who are injury replacements, etc., etc. So there are 8 billion-ish people on this planet, and millions play basketball. So you can see how precious this opportunity is and how much that opportunity means to these players and their family. So to have an agent who is not just calling in his spare time on Zoom or whatever technological device is the latest, but rather cares enough to be there in person to advocate on your behalf and to be with you while you're in this tank with all these sharks that want your job is so important. And like, going back to why I transitioned into this, again, I really just wanted to be the agent that I always wanted. And this is no knock on others, but I just knew that I had time and I was committed to it. So I felt that I could really do a good job at this. And it's obviously fulfilling for me. It's not a financial move at all. It's more of a calling, if you would. I love it. I love what I do. And so to your question, flexibility from a travel perspective, and then being able to be there, being able to be there for my clients is, what we're all about.
Are you able to share, if you remember, because it was a few years ago, almost coming up on 3 years ago, what was going on at the time? I remember the sense of urgency was so important, and that's always something that one as a practitioner has to balance, the need for speed and the timing versus the due diligence that's required to put a case together so that you ensure the best result. What was weighing in the balance pending approval of this O1 that, but for the fact that we were able to, thank God, be successful for you, that there was questionable doubt what was the opportunity cost that could have accrued to you in your business had it not worked out? Not that I ever entertain that it won't, but
right. I don't remember specifically, but I know that it's usually meetings. There's always a situation, like I said, with players. You're dealing with people that are between 19 and usually 26. The average age in the NBA is 26. Right, not too many people make it beyond 26. You except for the superstars that are household names like the Currys, the LeBrons, the Durants, etc. Beyond that, the window of opportunity is so small, and so it probably would have been recruiting. You can't recruit someone you don't see. You're not gonna be successful just calling. You have to show up. You have to be present. So I'm pretty sure it was those opportunities. And again, going to see my current clients and just letting them know they have someone fighting with them and someone constantly advocating for them. Because getting there is half the battle. Staying is actually harder.
That's what they say about marriage, although I haven't been married yet. So it's kind of like a marriage, being a manager, the relationship is like a very close and personal one, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And that's the sentiment that I got from working with you, which is why, I enjoyed working on your case so much, because you're just an all around great guy and the work that you do is super interesting. So the last question I want to ask for you to share with the viewers is a two-part one. Since you've gotten your O1, can you share some of the highlights of in the last 3 years, some of the highlights of where you've gone with your career? And if you've done any segueing, you can share with us what you've done there, or if you've just stayed focused and on track with specific teams and players. And also, I remember in drafting your case that in an earlier stage of your career, you worked a lot with youth, with maybe high school or college age, pre-pro students and doing a lot of community work using basketball as a vehicle to inspire children in community work. And I'm just wondering, do you even have time for that, or are you still doing any of that as well?
Okay. No.
Long question.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. If I don't answer, please remind me which part I missed. But the first part, let's start with the kids. Yes, I continue to work with children. I make time for that. That's my biggest passion. That's what I enjoy the most, which kind of carries into me being an agent. I wouldn't call our clients kids, but they're young people. They're very young men who have to make tough decisions every day that, I think back to being a player, and they were difficult, because you have to find a way to make your decisions based on intelligence versus emotions when the whole thing is emotional. So it's very difficult. So I've really prided myself on being there for them with that and using my experience to help and assist with that. And so one of the main things that have happened is I'm able to be there more in person. So for example, I was in Los Angeles from December to June, and to be there for one of my clients that was playing for the Lakers and going through a very integral time in his career, if you would, kind of almost like a make it or break time. So to have your agent there with you, supporting you on a day-to-day basis, I would know that as a player I would have loved that, and I think he appreciated that. So just things like that, just being able to be present like I intended to do from the beginning. It really just gave me the freedom. I don't think anything monumental has happened. Like I haven't signed the number 1 draft pick or anything, but I've been able to give my current.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. It's coming soon. But yeah, I've just been able to provide better service for my clients by being there, and also whether drive or fly or approach the border, whether driving or flying, with more confidence, knowing that we're all set. It's not going to be a 1-hour ordeal.
I hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you are an inspiration. I want to thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed working with you. I hope that we are going to continue to work together, and that I'll learn more about the growth and development of your career and all the amazing players and young men and hopefully women too, that you're able to inspire and encourage and support and manage to thrive in their professional journeys. And yeah, just thank you for being on the show, and keep up the good work, Gary.
And thank you very much, first of all. And thank you so much for your help with making this possible. I really appreciate it. And yes, we'll continue to work together. We'll be in touch very shortly.
And let me know when you're going to a Lakers game, because my nephew's in Los Angeles, obsessed about the Lakers. So I need to coordinate a visit with you and them. I would like to make their decade, probably.
Awesome. So I'm back and forth between Toronto and there. So if it's in Toronto too, that works as well.
Okay. Right. Yeah, they're flexible. We're all flexible.
Wonderful. And Canada is very welcoming. Canada loves visitors. So
I know that. I've had a few Canadians already on the show. So you can just tell by the amount of Canadians on my podcast episodes. The percentage of Canadians that have already appeared is quite high. So I really enjoy working with them, and they're close by. So that's
good. Well, on behalf of all Canadians, thank you, Candice. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day. And thank you to everyone chiming in on Facebook and who will be watching this on my YouTube channel and on LinkedIn. Thank you for your attention and your time, and see you next time. Bye, everyone.
You've been tuning into Extraordinary Ability with your host, Candice Ackermann. Learn how you may qualify for O1, EB1, and IW visas, especially if you have been denied other U.S. visas. Please visit www.visalawpros.com to contact us and for other episodes. Thank you for your positive feedback, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others.